Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Master Topic. I am your teacher, Karl, here to guide you through all things Level 1. And today we are already on Lesson 6 of the listening portion. We're over halfway through the listening portion, guys. I'm so proud of you all. Please just stick with me for Type 6, which is just question number 25, okay? So I want you to all focus very hard because even though it's just one question, it's that much more difficult, okay? Let's take a look at it. First thing we see, up until now we've all had conversations, but this time it's just one big monologue, right? Just one person talking, and they're talking for quite a bit here. So you are really going to have to focus to make sure that you don't miss what they are saying. And this is actually going to cover questions number 25 and 26. But since 26 is doing something that we've already done before, just matching the content of the monologue with the question, with the answers, we're going to focus on number 25. So what are we doing here? Well, there are two questions, but like I said, we're only focusing on one of them today. And the difficulty is 5 stars out of 5, right? So like I said, it's one monologue. So from the beginning to the end, you really have to focus and you got to know what to listen for so that you can answer the questions correctly, okay? And so what are we looking for? The intent of the monologue. Why is the woman talking? It's usually going to be a woman speaking here. So why is she talking? What is she trying to say here, right? And so we're going to study common vocab for reasons and purpose. And what we mean by common vocab is there are certain words that are often going to appear in the options. And so we're going to learn what some of those are. All right, let's break it down. So first things first, always understand what the question is asking. 여자가 왜 이 이야기를 하고 있는지 고르십시오. Why the woman is talking, right? 왜 이 이야기를 하고 있는지. Why she is talking, right? It's going to be a monologue, like I said, and so we're going to find out her intent, right? So what are we going to do first? Well, like we've always said, we're going to find the main vocab in the options. And in this case, it's usually going to come at the end. If you notice, they all end in 뭐뭐 하려고, 뭐뭐 알리려고, right? And so this is really where we're going to be focusing on. So 설명, 안내, 행사, 감사, 인사, things like that. So words like these are often going to appear in this question, right? And they're all giving reasons and purpose. And also it's going to usually end in 하려고, right? Just another little tip there. All right, so now that you kind of know what to look for, why don't you try a few for yourselves?
다음을 듣고 물음에 답하십시오.
잠시 안내 말씀드립니다. 우리 회사에서는 사랑의 아침밥 행사를 엽니다. 식사를 못하고 출근하시는 분들을 위해 내일부터 한 달 동안 아침 식사를 무료로 드립니다. 건강에 좋고 맛있는 식사가 준비됩니다. 1층 식당에 오셔서 아침을 드시고 즐거운 하루를 시작하시기 바랍니다. 감사합니다.
다시 들으십시오.
잠시 안내 말씀드립니다. 우리 회사에서는 사랑의 아침밥 행사를 엽니다. 식사를 못하고 출근하시는 분들을 위해 내일부터 한 달 동안 아침 식사를 무료로 드립니다. 건강에 좋고 맛있는 식사가 준비됩니다. 1층 식당에 오셔서 아침을 드시고 즐거운 하루를 시작하시기 바랍니다. 감사합니다.
All right, guys, how was that for you, right? So now that we're getting into a little bit longer passages, it might be a little bit more difficult to focus. And also just having one person, there's not quite as much for our ears to catch onto, right? So if it's a conversation, if it's a dialogue, then our ears kind of have something to listen for. But this is a little bit more difficult to focus on. But if you know the tips and tricks, then it'll be a little bit easier to solve, right? So, first things first, what are we doing? We're looking at our options, right? 설명하려고, 안내하려고, 알리려고, 감사 인사를 하려고, right? And so to figure this out, we're going to go from the top to the bottom and figure out exactly what she's saying, right? So first, 잠시 안내 말씀드립니다. 말씀드리다 is a way to say to tell you something, right? It's a 높임말. So 안내 말씀, 안내. So a guide or kind of like an announcement. So we can already look, oh, 안내, we got that. Well, 알리다, right? To let somebody know something. So we know it's probably not going to be something like a 감사 인사, right? So if it's a 감사 인사, it's probably going to say thank you right from the start. So we know it's not going to be that. All right, let's see what else she has to say. 우리 회사에서는 사랑의 아침밥 행사를 엽니다. 행사, right? So let's look down here. 행사 and then 행사, right? 2 and 3, they're both talking about this event, the 행사, the event. So we kind of narrow it down a little bit more there. 자, 식사를 못하고 출근하시는 분들을 위해 내일부터 한 달 동안 아침 식사를 무료로 드립니다. Right? So, 내일부터 한 달 동안. What are they saying? How long the event is going to last. Right? Let's look down here again. 행사 신청 기간을 안내하려고. 신청, right? So the 신청 would be, what is it in English? Like requesting it, signing up for it. 신청 기간. But that's not quite what they're asking here, right? So it's not going to be number 2. It's going to be number 3, right? 회사에서 하는 행사를 알리려고, right? To tell the workers about this event. All right, let's break down some of the vocabulary we got here. First, 설명하다. 설명하다, explain something, to explain, right? 설명 is our word for explanation. And then if we add 하다 to the end of it, then it's just making that into a verb. So 설명하다, to do an explanation, to explain something. And 안내하다 is something very similar. So 안내 would be something like guiding or to make an announcement in this case, right? An announcement. So 안내하다 would be to guide somebody around or to tell somebody about an announcement, make an announcement. 알리다. 알리다 is our word for to tell somebody, to teach somebody, to let somebody know, right? If you look carefully, you can kind of see the word 알다, to know in there. So 알다, 알리다, to let somebody know, to tell somebody about something. And then 인사하다. So 인사 is a greeting. What did we have up here? 감사 인사, right? So saying thank you, a 감사 인사. You could also have maybe like 작별 인사, saying goodbye. Things like that. So different types of greetings that you can have here. All right, and let's look at some of the other stuff we got. 위치, right? We said 식당 위치, so the location of the 식당, of the restaurant. So the location of the restaurant. 신청 기간, 기간 here. So we talked about this a little bit earlier. 기간 is a period of time, right? So 시간 would be just talking about time, like the passage of time, things like that. But a 기간 would be from this day to this day. So you could say the 신청 기간 for something would be 5월 1일부터 5월 7일까지, 일주간. Something like that would be 신청 기간. And then 회사 직원. So 직원 is an employee, but usually when we say 직원, we talk about full-time employees, right? If you're working part-time, you wouldn't be a 직원. You would be maybe 알바생. something like that. 아르바이트생, things like that. And then 회사 행사, an event, right? And so what do we have with events? In English we say have an event, but here 행사를 열다 or 행사가 열리다, right? So this is active versus passive. So you could say 회사에서 행사가 열렸습니다. 회사가 행사를 열었습니다. Right? So you can kind of use them pretty similarly, not particularly too big of a difference there. It's just more of a grammatical difference. So just remember, when you have 열다, use 를. 열리다 comes with 가, right? Active versus passive voice.